It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Hey folks, here's a news flash for you. Now, just came into the Sam Lesante Show. I want you to understand what it is. The news flash is that Hillary Clinton lost the election. Donald Trump won the presidential election. Just for those liberals out there who don't understand that, let me repeat. Hillary Clinton lost the presidential election and Donald Trump won the election. Now, I know it's no shock to my guest, Congressman Barletta, but did you know that Hillary Clinton lost? I mean, if you listen to the media today, they're still clinging on, and the celebrities are still clinging on to the fact that they just don't believe that she lost. But you know she lost, don't you?
Yeah, she lost on her own.
On her own, yeah. You mean it wasn't Russia, China, Indonesia, Bush and Reagan and it was not their faults, right? She just lost, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Congressman, thanks for coming on the show. Congressman Barletta from the 11th Congressional District. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of exciting things happening. You wouldn't believe it if you listened to the press, which is amazing. Now, you are one of the first, as we said before, to come out and say, look, this guy Trump is going to be the person. And, what were your reasonings at that point why you felt he would be the president of the best?
He caught my attention very early with his stand against illegal immigration and securing the border. And I saw the attacks on him, much like what I experienced as the mayor of Hazleton. And I admired the fact that he didn't back down from it. That first caught my attention. But then the more he talked about things, the more he was saying things that I felt were correct, and I realized, being in Washington, that the establishment. I watched the establishment in Washington doing everything they can to try to stop Donald Trump, basically telling the American people that they don't know what they're doing, that Washington knows best, and I realized that this is the problem. The problem is Washington doesn't listen to the people, and here was a perfect example, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I just was frustrated with Washington in itself, and here was an outsider, a guy that's not a politician, a businessman, who was saying the things that I believed, and I was one of the first in Congress to endorse him.
Looking at the results, and for example, in northeastern Pennsylvania, 70% in Schuylkill County voted for Trump. Up to 70% in Luzerne County voted for Trump. Almost taking Lackawanna County, which would have been a miracle, okay, because they feel that because Clinton's there and Biden's there, okay, that we don't care about qualifications, but they're our neighbors, we have to vote for them, okay, which was amazing, okay, which I think swung the state of Pennsylvania, okay. Now, when you look at the different issues that are going to be facing the country today, immigration, okay, there are people out there feeling that their families are going to be broken up. He wants to come in and just separate things, and it's all this negative stuff. Okay, what would be the true way this immigration law would be enforced?
Well, first thing he's talking about doing is securing the border so that people can continue to come into America illegally, and that will improve wages of the American worker. It will also give immigrants who are here, legal immigrants, an opportunity to get work, to get a better job, to take care of their families. And you got to enforce the immigration laws, Sam. We have immigration laws for two reasons. One is to protect our national security, and to protect the American worker. And we've got to begin enforcing the laws that we have. We can't be a country without laws, and we can't be a country without borders.
Well, when you're looking at the immigration laws today, people again feel that this guy is heartless. Okay, is he heartless?
No, he's anything but heartless. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because Donald Trump gets it. When you enforce your immigration laws, when you stop illegal immigration, that's the best thing you can do for legal immigrants, for people who have waited, who have come here, respected America's laws, came here through the process, and are trying to establish a family, a job, Donald Trump wants to help them. You know, the people at the lowest end of the economic ladder, people who are would like to make more money than what they're making, it's very difficult when you're flooding the country with people who will compete for those jobs. We've got to stop that flow. We have the most generous immigration laws in the world. We allow well over 1 million people a year to come into the country legally. When you add the fact that how many more people are coming here illegally, of course it's going to be hard to find a job, which hurts families, hurts the economy, not to mention the national security threat. Now that we know ISIS, their goal is not, they are not going to stop, Sam. They're going to come into the United States and they're going to try to disrupt our lives. It's critical that we secure our borders. It's critical that we enforce our immigration laws and that we encourage people to come to America legally.
All right, talking about two things, the immigration laws, okay, which you've been fighting for years. Then you have sanctuary cities, okay? So before we get to sanctuary cities, what do you think will happen within the next year or two with the wall?
Well, there's no question in my mind he's going to secure the borders. And when Donald Trump talks about the wall, I've been down to the border a number of times. You know, there are areas along our southern border that a wall won't work, doesn't make sense. There's technology that we can use. There's different things that we can do. When he talks about we're going to build a wall, we will build a physical wall across the border, but not the entire border. We may use different technologies. What he means is you're not going to come into the country illegally. You're not going to be able to just walk across a border, an imaginary border, and into America and get the benefits that this country has. It's not only the wall, and I've had this discussion many times. Nearly 50% of the people that are here illegally, they don't cross a border illegally. They come legally on a visa. The visa expires and they just disappear, and we can't find them. That's the easiest way for terrorists to get into the country. The 9/11 Commission report is very clear that we have to stop people from overstaying their visas. Donald Trump understands that as well.
All right, so again, I'm thinking of logic here, okay? If throughout the years we have seen the influx of all these illegals coming in and the drugs coming in, and this is attested by law enforcement, so it's not only throwing things up in the air. These are facts, right. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so and not to pick on Obama, but the point is, when you see this and you know it's happening, okay, why didn't President Obama at the time do something about it?
Well, and I'm going to be totally honest, it wasn't just Obama. It was the administrations before. Our border has been open. We've been talking about this. I've been talking about this since I was mayor back, in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Why haven't we secured the borders? Politicians in Washington claim that they want to secure the borders. Why haven't we? There's two reasons why I believe people in Congress have been reluctant to do anything. One, there's a lot of pressure for cheap labor. There's no question about it. Members of Congress get a lot of pressure for cheap labor, and everybody wants the vote. They're so afraid of offending people that the people that they are really offending is the average American that wants to be safe. They want their families to be safe. They don't want somebody coming into this country illegally and competing for their job. And certainly we don't want them to come in here and if they're a terrorist, if they're a drug dealer, if they're here for no good, there's no reason why we're not doing what we should be doing. Most members of Congress really are afraid to stand up for securing the border and enforcing our immigration laws.
Well, how will this work then? I mean, like when he starts going after these illegal immigrants, okay, is it going to be mass deportation, or what will be the process?
He's been very clear. He said the very first thing we're going to do is after we secure the border, the first people that will be deported will be the criminal aliens, people who are in the country illegally, who have committed crimes. I don't think anybody could disagree with that.
Yeah.
Who could disagree with that?
So in other words, secure the border.
Secure the border.
That means the wall has to be built.
Right. Nobody else can come in.
Yeah.
Now we know what's here is here.
Okay.
Now we're going to get rid of all the criminal aliens, people who have been here, who are in prisons, who have committed crimes, they're going. They'll be deported. At that point, what Donald Trump is saying, now let's see what we have. Nobody really knows how many people are here.
Okay.
We don't know that.
So it's not a mass, anyone who is here
it's
illegally,
no
you're
such
going to be
thing.
out.
It's
because
not tearing
this-
anybody out of their houses.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to be knocking on doors, checking your
Well, that's
immigration
what the
status and
Democrats are
throwing you
saying.
out. Of course.
Yeah.
That's what they've always been doing to try to scare
Yeah.
people so that they can get the vote. And rather than do what's right for the average American. And I think the fact that Donald Trump won is a clear indication that the American people want their immigration laws enforced. They want their borders secure. And that's what he's going to do.
Well, what is a sanctuary city?
So a sanctuary city is any city where the mayor refuses to allow its law enforcement to cooperate with the federal government in enforcing the immigration laws. Basically, these cities will not share any information with the federal government about the legal status, or will they enforce any of the laws. Creates a safe haven, therefore, for anyone in the country illegally can go to these cities and know that they will be protected that from the federal government, from immigration officers, from ICE. They will be protected by the law enforcement, by the government of that city. Basically, it is a safe haven for illegals, illegal aliens to go to, where they will be protected by the government officials, by the city officials and law enforcement.
Why do you think de Blasio, is it de Blasio?
Yeah.
San Francisco, at least Chicago, and a few, probably a number, but these are the key cities. These mayors, why would they want to say, we're not going to cooperate, and they want to have their cities as safe havens? What's their defense? What are they saying why?
Well, their answer is that they want people who are in the country illegally to not fear the government officials, the elected officials, their government officials, law enforcement. So therefore, they will be willing to come forward with any information if there's a crime committed. They won't be afraid to go to law enforcement, to go to the police and give information. They will cooperate with law enforcement in solving other crimes. Now, Chicago's a sanctuary city. I don't know how that's working for them there.
It's the worst in the country.
Philadelphia's murders have been going up. You know, the very first thing I did when I got to Washington in 2011, very first bill that I introduced was a bill that would punish sanctuary cities. I was the mayor of Hazleton who tried to enforce the first law in the country and was sued for it. I've been called every name you can imagine, and you know, it wasn't very easy at that time to do that. And then I get to Congress and I find out that there are 80 cities where the mayors are defying the federal government. Sam, that is a crime. It is a criminal offense for mayors to not enforce federal laws. They do not have that right. They are committing a crime by doing it. So that was the very first bill I did. And what my bill would do is it would prevent 1 cent of taxpayer money, federal taxpayer money, to go to any city that declared itself a sanctuary city. Today, there are now over 300 cities. From 80 in 2011, there are now 300 cities that are sanctuary cities, safe havens for people who are in the country illegally to go to, where they will be protected by their own government who won't share that information with the federal government.
In San Francisco, we had a case.
Kate Steinle.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing about life is this way. You know, it's always like, you know, as long as they're doing it, it doesn't affect me. I have no, you know, it's like these women who are, I would never have an abortion, but if she wants to have an abortion, that's okay. It's like, I would never kill that person, but if you want to kill them, it's okay. When you look at, you go to New York City, we go there often, or you go to a safe haven city. God forbid something happens. Your daughter, your wife, you, or something involved with one of these criminals, you get shot, you die, and you lose a loved one. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, this person was illegal and shouldn't be here, which happened in San Francisco. So, see, Lou, I have a problem with logic sometimes. And it's a simple thing. So Chicago is probably the worst in the entire United States, but yet they still do these things. It's like insanity. You do the same thing over and over and try to get the same, different result. It doesn't make sense to me.
And who stands up for the average American, the innocent American who has done nothing wrong, when somebody who is in the country illegally has been arrested and left go back into our communities again and commits another crime? Who stands up for the victims of these crimes? Last year, 2016, over 2,000 illegal criminal aliens were released back out into the communities again. I mean, these aren't people who have just come to America just for a job and aren't hurting anyone. They're just working. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about people who came into the country illegally, commit a crime against an American citizen, and get released back out into the neighborhoods again. Just hard for me to accept.
What color is this?
White.
Okay. Are you sure?
It's white.
All right. If you were a wacko liberal, you'd say, well, it's a little gray, it's a little black. They won't admit what's happening. Folks, I'm talking to Congressman Lou Barletta, 11th Congressional District, very close to the president, as you know, and did not take the Secretary of Labor. Why didn't he take the Secretary of Labor's position? And what is he going to do for us in Congress? We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, 24/7 SSPTV.com. Folks, in Comcast 190 in Pottsville, we're on from Monday through Friday, 7 to 11 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 11 p.m., Comcast 190. In the Wilkes-Barre, Mountaintop, Kingston area, Saturdays and Sunday evenings, 7 to 11 on Channel 92, Service Electric Communications, and also Comcast in Lackawanna County, Sunday and Saturday and Sunday mornings from 8 to 11. My guest today, Congressman Lou Barletta. Folks, okay, now the liberal press, Lou, I'm embarrassed to say that we're in the press because believe me when I tell you, if our news people would ever do what they're doing at CNN, ABC, CBS, and the major networks, they'd be fired. Okay, they have taken a side. They have taken a side, and it's so unfair. Give you an example: Obamacare. They have people believing that 30 million people are going to lose their health insurance. I mean, tell me how wacky that is.
Well, it's ridiculous, Sam. It's just this has not worked. They know it's not working. It's going to collapse on its own if we didn't come in here and really rescue it and have a health care plan where you can pick your doctor and you can pick the plan that you like and you could be in control of your own health care rather than the government. I mean, I think the government has a track record of proving that it can't, it can't manage anything very, very well. But the fact is that this thing was going to collapse on its own. It was interesting. I had a doctor come into my office and say, you talk about the 20 million people who now have health care that didn't on Obamacare. He said, I'll give you an example where it's not working. He said, I had somebody come in and they needed tests. They're on Obamacare and they have this health care plan now and they won't go for the test because they can't afford the out-of-pocket cost of it. So they still don't have health care. Mm-hmm. We're still not providing good health care to people.
Now, how do you stand before they jump to something else, okay? Because here again, there are such things as pre-existing conditions and students are up to age 26. How do you stand about that before you make a switch? What's Lou Barletta's stand?
Well, I've been pretty clear to our leadership and to our conference in Washington. I'm okay with that. We just began the framework and we began to move this down, the repeal of Obamacare. But I will not vote for a complete repeal of Obamacare until we have a replacement ready to go, so that nobody falls through the cracks, so nobody is left behind. We don't need to be in a hurry, in a rush, just because the media wants us to. We've got to be smart and do this right. It's very complicated now, Sam, because of the fact that this has gone down the road so much. There's a lot of tentacles to this, so it's going to take us time to make sure that we get it right. So I won't vote for a repeal until we have a product, a replacement, ready to go, that won't let people fall through the cracks, or those who now have insurance left out in the cold.
Okay, so you will support covering people with pre-existing conditions?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's the most important part, and that's the hardest part of, because they had to use the individual mandate, forcing young people to buy health insurance. That's how they were going. That's on theory, on paper, how they were going to pay for this.
Didn't happen.
It didn't happen because young people didn't want it.
Yeah, they're paying the fines.
Be forced.
Allowing children to stay on parents' insurance until age 26.
That's also something that we support.
Okay, so what you're saying is, despite the fact that the wacko liberals out there, the press, are beginning to feed all this, I mean, they're going insane. I mean, it's just like Brit Hume said on Fox, which is a very good news reporter. He said he has never seen anything in his life, what's happening with the press today, like the Washington Post, New York Times, and I throw up when my wife and I don't even watch the major news anymore, because especially when I'm having dinner, because you see how they slant it. Now, you're very close with Donald Trump, okay? There's no question about it. You can pick up the phone. In fact, you told me you're waiting for a call right now from him. He did offer you Secretary of Labor, okay? Why didn't you take it?
Well, first we talked about Secretary of Transportation, which was something that I really wanted to do. That's my background. During the conversation, obviously he went in another direction, picked Elaine Chao, which was a good pick. She'll do a great job as Secretary. We talked about Deputy Secretary of Transportation, which I wasn't interested in, and then they talked to me about considering Secretary of Labor, and I had to give it some thought, Sam, because. Thinking about it, that hasn't been what I've been working on. That hasn't been the passion of most of my work in Congress. And, the immigration issues, Homeland Security, transportation, I'd be giving up all of that, not to mention the fact that there's no question, because of my relationship with Donald Trump, I have a lot more influence than I've ever had before. I can use that to help us so much more back home. And at the end of the day, thinking about, possibility of serving in his cabinet, or possibility of going back to Congress, having this influence to help our district, to help our people, to put the finishing touches on immigration issues and transportation. I think I can do more in Congress than I could in his cabinet in that position. And at the end of the day, I just felt that I could better serve us, Pennsylvania, our country, in a position, having that relationship with the president, and be able to accomplish a lot more.
I got to tell you, Lou, to be able to pick up the phone and be able to just talk to the President of the United States, I don't know if Ryan could do that. I think, you may have a little bit more influence than, your congressional, leader there. But however, how do you get along with Ryan?
Well, we're getting along good now. There was no question that I've had my disagreements over the election, over the non-support for Donald Trump during the campaign, and I made it known. And we've worked through that. He's assured me that he and Donald Trump will be working close together, and that's important to me.
Well,
because
Donald will tell you that. I think Donald Trump will tell you that. He'd tell you that. Yeah. About a minute and a half left. Okay, so what do we have? The average person out there, the seniors, the people who are trying to get jobs. People have jobs. Okay, when you look at Social Security, they're clobbering them, 2% or 3%, increase, which is a slap. The veterans truthfully, Lou, you didn't earn your reputation to pick up the phone to call Trump because you didn't do anything and you didn't have substance. What do you think we have to look forward to?
Well, I think the very first thing we're going to do is get us out of this healthcare mess that we're in. People can't afford healthcare. They can't afford they can't afford their deductibles. They can't afford the pocket expense, so they're not going to the doctor. They're not going to have tests done. The health of the American people are going to go down. It's very important that we fix that and we get it right. That's no question going to happen. Donald Trump's going to secure our borders and keep us safe, and that's one of the other most important things that the American people want to do. He's also going to have good trade deals. He's already brought how many more jobs back to America?
Interject here. I'm listening to David Muir the other night. GM decided to do something, but they still said, but you know what? That was done even before Donald Trump was even ready to do that. Okay, they just cannot admit that this guy is. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you just want to throw up. It's unbelievable.
But the media is not fooling the American people. The American people are onto them. They're onto them, Sam. Their gig is over. They can't hide their bias anymore, and the American people don't care.
Well, you know what? They're dealing with the wrong guy. They're dealing with the wrong guy. Trump is not going to give in to those guys. I don't care what they do, even regionally. I mean, they just will not give him. Britt Human said the word fair. Yeah. They're not being fair, okay? And that's why broadcast television's going down the tubes. That's why people are not buying the New York Times, the Washington Post. And you know what? I said to a guy today, I said, look, they're digging their own grave. I don't understand this.
American people don't care anymore.
You're right.
They don't care anymore.
Right. You're absolutely right. Congressman Barletta, folks, a lot more to come. This is just part one of a great, I think, the next 4 years. Oh, did I tell you Hillary Clinton lost the election? Oh, that's right. And then Donald Trump won the election. This is going out to the liberal press and all those wackos out there that will not be fair. You should be totally ashamed of yourselves to print stuff that you're printing and lying on national television, all those broadcast stations that are lying to you, fake news, false polls. It's a disgrace, folks. It's a total disgrace. Check them out. See you next time.